Hi, everyone. 1 year ago tonight, I was in New York to attend my first magical evening. I was so inspired that I knew I'd return in 2017, but never in my wildest dreams did Jenn or I think we'd be up here tonight receiving this prestigious award on our family's behalf. As a young kid, I knew Christopher Reeve as Superman. He was an absolute hero in my eyes. In 1995, the year Chris was injured, I was 17 years old. I remember hearing the news and feeling completely stunned. Injuries like this weren't supposed to happen to Superman. Then at the age of 32, I suddenly found myself in the same unimaginable situation. A doctor stood by my bed and told me that I would likely never walk again. And that same thought entered my mind. This isn't supposed to happen, not to me. During those first few hours, I was terrified. I wondered if my life still had meaning. I wondered if I would be dependent on others for the rest of my life. I wondered if my bride of less than a year would still love me the same. I wondered what kind of father I could possibly be to my unborn child. I was not only mourning the loss of my current life, I was mourning the future I'd envisioned for myself. But being paralyzed forces you to dig deep. You have to do a lot of soul searching. And early on, I knew I had to make a choice, not to let the injury win. It had taken away part of me, but it would not take away my future. I reflected a lot on Christopher Reeve, feeling connected to him even though we'd never met. My wife and I read his autobiography and he became even more of a hero to me than he ever had in the Cape. Adjusting to life as a paraplegic was incredibly challenging, and there's still really tough days. Jenn and I don't know what we would do without the constant love and support of our friends and family. People often comment how hard it must have been to become a parent at the exact same time I became paralyzed. But my boys, Christopher, Hunter, and Kellen, are my greatest motivators. They remind me to live in the moment, to be grateful, and to keep pushing forward. They've taught me that a person's physical capabilities are the least important factors in what make a great parent. My wife and sons have given me a life so meaningful that I wouldn't change anything. Thank you to everyone in this room for supporting the paralysis community. Despite my injury, I feel that I'm an incredibly fortunate man. It's an honor to be part of Team Reeve, and I pledge to do all I can to help others find the support they need to rediscover their inner strength and courage, too. My wife Jennifer is going to say a few words now.
Good evening. When I reflect on my life with Chris, it becomes apparent that there are these exact moments, or often actual dates, that clearly stand out. There are, of course, those dates that we hold near to our hearts, such as our first date, our wedding day, or the births of our 3 children. But there are other moments that have equally served to define us. February 20th, 2010 was the date that I received a phone call my husband had been in an accident. In my race to the hospital, I wondered, did Chris break his leg, an arm, perhaps hit his head? Not once did I stop and wonder if my husband had just become paralyzed. The term spinal cord injury was simply not part of our vocabulary. Not even in the ER, when I first spotted my husband lying motionless and upright in a cervical collar. Not even then did paralysis enter my mind. It wasn't until I crossed the room to his gurney that I began to understand the severity of his injury. I straightened to a level where he could see me, and when our eyes locked, his immediately filled with tears. "Babe," he said, I'm so scared. I can't feel my legs. A blood clot was detected along his injured spinal cord, so Chris required immediate surgery. Still knowing nothing about spinal cord injury, we made a vow to one another. We had no idea what the future would look like, but we would face it together. We promised each other that the best was still yet to come. Fast forward 8 months to October 18th, 2010. Chris, Kathy, and I drove into San Francisco to attend an event, a roadshow event, put on by the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. In the 8 months since Chris's injury, we'd managed to adjust to our new normal. It wasn't easy, it wasn't pretty, but thanks to our loved ones, our MDs, OTs, PTs, and the wealth of information we found online through the Reeve Foundation, we were somehow making it work. That night in San Francisco, we learned about the current state of spinal cord injury research, and it marked the first time that we would shake hands with Peter Wilderotter, a man that would remember us in the years to come, and one that we would come to call a personal friend. We drove home that night more certain than ever that a cure for paralysis would happen in our lifetime. Fast forward to September 27th, 2015. 5.5 years after Chris's injury. Now pregnant with our third son, Chris and I were living very active, busy lives. Our day-to-day concerns largely mirrored the average family living down the street. Despite Chris's paralysis and his unrelenting nerve pain, we had so much to be grateful for, and our precious children made it easy for us to live in the moment. But we never lost hope for a future without paralysis. So when we heard about the big idea, epidural stimulation study, we were more than hopeful. We were more than inspired. We were compelled to act. September 27th, 2015 marked the first time that we officially joined forces with the Reeve Foundation to host a fundraiser in our hometown of Los Altos, California. There's one final date I'd like to mention, and that is November 16th, 2017, which is, of course, today. I can guarantee you that Chris and I will wake up tomorrow and still be in disbelief that this evening took place. To be mentioned in the same sentence as Christopher Reeve is an incredible compliment. To receive an award bearing his name is an indescribable honor. Thanks to supporters like you in this room and to the Reeve Foundation, we know there will be many other significant dates to come, dates that will bring us hope, joy, and a cure. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for making our lives a bit more magical.